Crack Clay is back. Tim,
Happy.
Veronica,
Bratton?
Crack Clay, building a fair-proof marriage God's way. Honey, if I had a lot of affairs, which I've had in the past, and I tell you all about it, honey, I told you about, I mean, just like a light switch, you're supposed to turn that off and trust me, right?
No. No, I wouldn't be able just to trust
Well, don't you want to trust me? Because I'm telling you everything. So if I went on my own to tell you everything, wouldn't you just trust me if I was trusting you enough to come out and tell you before I...
No, you would have to still...
Verify, maybe?
There's a lot that would need to happen. And there's a lot that should happen in marriage anyway to just kind of make sure that doesn't happen. And for a wife to always trust her husband.
We're going to talk about that. One terrible regret I have. Before we go into that, I want to talk about a couple things. Number one, should preachers of the world be standing up and talking more about the evil of Nazism, dictatorship, communism, and Nazism? Should they?
Marxism?
Marxism, Nazi. That flag, actual flag is just like the Nazi flag. Do you know what they represent? You know, in the old days when I went to church with my dad, we had people that came a lot that escaped the Iron Curtain. What is the Iron? Why do they call communism the Iron Curtain? It's a secret society. They're looking for police brutality to tell the masses, you can't live in this terrible country. They have police brutality. But they don't tell you once the communists take over, it's an Iron Curtain. It's all secret. That's why they want to propaganda. They want to keep the world from knowing what's going inside that country. That's why you got to look at my video about what really Cuba is all about. It's nothing like the media portrays it. It's terrible. Everybody lives in complete misery, poverty, below our poverty.
It's broke.
It's terrible.
Breaks your heart.
If you think, and I know a lot of young people who everything was given to them by their rich parents, and they just think, and they're going to smoke dope and play video games all day and get paid for it. And someone like the Bernie, the communists come around and say, hey man, socialism, get paid for doing nothing as hard as Tom is, working his butt off. The only problem is when socialism comes, Tom stops working his butt off because all the ambition is gone. It's gone. It's destroyed. Communism know that. I'm shocked. As a kid, I didn't know what Khrushchev said back in the day when he says we will destroy America without firing a shot. As a kid at 10, 9, 12, I was like, what the world is he talking about? That's what's happening. The communists have been infiltrating America for a little bit at a time. 20, 30, 40 years. Where we actually have young people out there hoping that communism is embraced and takes over America. That's what they've done by our media, by our professors in colleges, by our schools, religion.
Beginning our religion.
But the big one there is our schools, and by them just infiltrating
the media.
Infiltrating America. That's what they're doing on a rampant. In Judges, real quickly, Judges 16, we see here about Delilah and Samson. Real quick, just want to talk about communism, guys, how evil it is. Please read my book about that, about what's really Cuba-like.
Watch the video.
Do you really want to go back to Cuba? People want to live in that? Watch that. It's only 8 minutes long. You'll love it. Samson's weakness. Now, Samson went to Gaza and saw a harlot there and went into her. When it was told to the Gazaeans saying, Samson has come here, they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the gate of the city. And they kept silent all night, saying, let us wait until the coming light, then we will kill him. Later on it says, when Delilah enticed him, Samson told Delilah his secret, that what would have to happen to him for him to lose all of his power. Lose all of his power. And he told him that. That's what that does. When we fall into sexual sin, because the first chapter there said he had sex with her. When we fall into sexual sin, We lose our vision just like Samson did. Just like I lost a lot of my vision. When we lose our vision, then we lose our mission. That's why Jesus put us here. And then like Samson, when Samson finally told Delilah, what did Samson do? He lost his common sense. That's what happens to us when we have an affair or we have sexual sin outside of marriage. We lose our vision. Then we lose our mission for what Jesus put us here as a Christian when we gave our life to you, Jesus. And then we lose our common sense. Sin separates us from Jesus. There's that barrier there. He can't use you if you're sinning. If you're habitual, sexual sin, he can't use you. I think I posted yesterday. Is it possible as a Christian to be involved in sexual sin? To watch porn? Or whatever the case may be, and not be miserable? Especially in the morning? You're miserable if you're a born-again child of the King. So there's 3 ways back to answer that question. Yes, we have to become a born-again believer first. And then as a Christian, the Holy Spirit lives inside of us. And we have to feed the Spirit, not the flesh. Sometimes people think, well, when we give our life to Jesus, the devil just quits tempting us, right? No, he tempts us more, doesn't he?
He's just getting started.
Right? I had my only affair after I became a Christian, not soon after that. I was reading my Bible, but I wasn't studying like I should. I wasn't praying. I wasn't involved with church like I should. I wasn't involved with other men in church. Iron sharpens iron. I was living for Jesus like I should. We have to put him first in our lives and feed the Spirit, because the supernatural spirit in us is a whole lot greater than the evil devil who's in the world. The devil is in bed with communism, socialism. He wants to destroy America. I think we should talk more about that, right, baby? Mm-hmm. But anyway, we're going to get more back to this here. This is my wife's 3rd biggest need.
Well, actually, it's the book's 3rd biggest need for women, but it's probably my first.
Now you tell me. Well, probably are. But it all kind of begins with that. Okay.
Yeah, you've known that. I've said that from the beginning. Honesty, she needs to trust him totally. Honesty and openness.
Okay.
Because I've always said, if I can't trust you, none of the rest of it matters, right?
So why is that, baby?
Why is that? Well, because a woman needs a sense of security in her marriage. And it is the golden thread that's woven through all of her 5 basic needs. If a husband does not maintain honest and open communication with his wife, then he undermines her trust and eventually destroys her sense of security. So a wife has to trust her husband to give her accurate information about his past, his present, and the future. So if she can't trust the signals then he sends, then she gets confused and she has no foundation to build a solid relationship. And so instead of adjusting to him, she's always feeling off balance. And instead of growing with him, she grows away from him. So the wife who can't trust her husband to give her information she needs also lacks the ability to negotiate with him. And negotiation is really important in marriage because you always come at things from different perspectives and you have to be able to sit down and talk about them. And that's called negotiation in marriage, and you can't do that unless you're honest and open with each other. Withholding information in marriage is bad enough, but when a spouse provides misleading or downright false information, it becomes a disaster. All right? So being open.
But if I don't tell you about my past, I don't want you to think less of me. Right?
Well, we'll get to that, honey. Right now we're going to talk about being open. Okay, so transparency is one of the most important qualities in a successful marriage. Most important qualities in a successful marriage. Nothing should be hidden from each other. With a few, your spouse should know you better than anyone else does. Now, if you haven't been with us, we are His Needs, Her Needs, going through William Harley Jr., and he is a Christian counselor, and he says that, and there's so many times people will come into his office for counseling, and within a few sessions, he knows them better than they know each other. That they have for years wandered around blindly with smoke screens each has laid down for each other. In most cases, it isn't the wife who's doing the hiding, it's the husband. She'll ask him, like, so what are you thinking? How are you feeling? What are you planning? And he makes a joke out of it. He's like, what are you, a reporter? Are you writing a book? Why do you need to know? So that is very difficult for a woman if her husband won't talk to her. Privacy, which this kind of goes back to the number 2 one, which was communication, right? And this honesty and openness. So that communication has to be honest. So privacy is the second point to this. And privacy means you don't keep part of yourself hidden, right? That is past, present, or future, right, honey? Past,
You're being
present, or
legalistic now. Come on.
No, past, present, or future. So some men, some people, when he tells them that they have to tell their spouse everything about their past, present, and future, they're like, what?
Transparency?
What? You mean what about my privacy?
Let's sleeping dogs lie. Don't bring up those skeletons.
What about my privacy? Don't I have a right to privacy? And he says, if your privacy means that you don't tell them anything about yourself, then no, you don't get to have that privacy if you're withholding anything. One person needs to know, the one person who needs to know you the best in this world is your spouse, and you should provide her or him with all the information that they need, including the things you don't want them to know. And you also have to answer the questions and avoid lies of silence and readily volunteer information. Share yourself in every way possible. There's the policy of radical honesty. There are 3 reasons why radical honesty is crucial in marriage. First, is it's a clear roadmap for marital adjustment, like we talked about. A wife has to be able to adjust to her husband. You have to be able to negotiate. A lack of transparency makes that very difficult. And then there's always going to be problems in your marriage, and you can't talk about them and come up with a solution if you're not being transparent. The better you understand each other, the more likely you are to come up with solutions and not have to go to counseling. The second reason is dishonesty is just painfully offensive. I mean, no one wants to be lied to. Do you want to be lied to? I don't want to be lied to. The third thing is it's one of the most important emotional needs that women have. And so women will fall in love with a guy who spends time talking to her, being radically honest about himself, and it's because he's making so many deposits into her love bank. So that you need an unobstructed view of the mind, and we need an unobstructed view into the mind of the ones that we love. So the way that you do this policy of radical honesty, there are 4 parts to it: emotional honesty, historical honesty, current honesty, and future honesty. What is emotional honesty?
Well, that's talking with you, so communicating with you, so you can kind of let her know what I'm doing all day long.
So revealing your emotional reactions.
I want her to call me. I'm pretty organized as far as I plan my day out. When I work, when I'm coming home, my last person, I want her to know what I'm doing. So if she calls me, I want to be there what I told her I'm doing. I want to let her know during the course of the day if that changes her somewhat, or if I got to go here or there. I want her to know all the time, complete transparency what I'm doing. The more I do that, love that feels up.
Emotional honesty, though, the first policy of radical honesty is to be honest about what you're feeling and what you're thinking. Reveal all of your emotional reactions, both positive and negative, to the events of your life, particularly to your spouses. Some people never want to talk about the hard things, like in their marriage or in life. But you have to talk about the hard things, the negative things, in order to come up with a solution for them. Because most couples get married because they want to be together, but then they don't want to talk about a problem that they're having or something that the other one has done to upset them. And if you're not talking about it, then that is dishonesty. and
Withholding information.
It's withholding information.
That's lying too.
And then you are you're not serving your marriage because you can't work through this stuff together and you can't make adjustments. Now, when you're doing this, you have to steer clear of what he calls the enemies of intimate conversation, which you will understand: demands, disrespect, and anger. And you don't talk to your spouse with demands, disrespect, or anger to talk about the problems. You talk like calmly.
Because if I tell you something that bothers me and you jump all over me and go ballistic and pull a wild woman, do I still want to come back and tell you some more?
No, you don't. So every marriage changes. Things change. People grow. Your situation changes. You have to be able to roll with it. You can't do that if you can't talk about it. Okay, historical honesty. Historical honesty. Didn't we start with that? Did you ask me about that?
Well, I did. I said, yeah.
Should I tell you? Should you tell me everything?
I got to tell her everything, and she has to verify.
About your past.
I want to verify. That's why I want her to call me during the course of the day. Exactly what I'm doing all the time.
Well, historical honesty about your past.
Right. Exactly. I bet that correlates with the present.
Well, we're not there.
Well, that correlates with the present.
Okay, but I'm talking about historical your past.
Yeah. So I've told her everything. And I'm completely honest with her. She knows all about all my skeletons, all my shortcomings. And guess what? She still loves me. Anyway, just like Jesus did. There's no greater love than to represent Jesus in a marriage. To love each other, just like Jesus did. Jesus knows all about us. He knows our shortcomings. But Jesus still loves us.
So historical honesty is when you reveal information about your personal history, particularly events that demonstrate a personal weakness or failure. So some people say, "Oh, I don't let lying dogs lie. Why would I open all that up and tell my spouse?"
Can of worms.
Right? But your spouse needs to know, because past weaknesses are potential future weaknesses, and so they have to help you and kind of help hold you accountable and help guide you back on path if they see that you're steering off towards a past weakness. No area of your life should be kept secret. All of your spouse's questions about your past should be fully and completely answered. And periods of adjustment may need to be given special attention, and talk with. And also, he recommends you talk with several significant people from each other's past. That it can be a big
kind of like interview them. Maybe interview an ex-wife, ex-husband. But she's probably my biggest accountability partner too.
What's really cool is, like you said, to be a Christian is to be fully known and fully loved by Jesus, right? And the best thing about marriage, if you are practicing this,
right?
And if you
Great
do
example.
not hold anyone, if your spouse has done things in the past and they come to you and tell you these things, of course you're not supposed to freak out on them. If there's something that you need to talk through, or just kind of rocks your world that you didn't know before you married them, then maybe get some counseling together, or try to understand that hopefully they're not that person now. And people can't change what's already been done. They can't go backwards and change their past. So a really cool thing I feel like in our marriage is that we can talk to each other about anything. So in our marriage, one of the things I think that strengthens us is we are fully known by each other, and still fully love each other. So, and that is
because that draws us closer together.
It draws us closer together. So fully known, fully loved by Jesus, and in your marriage, that's the goal, right? So
fully transparent.
And you can only do that if you're being fully transparent. So some spouses tend to react. Okay, so some people, they're like, well, my spouse is going to be really angry that I didn't tell them this, or they're going to really freak out, or they're going to think less of me. And he says, I've never seen a marriage destroyed by truth. But sometimes there may be some negative reactions, and there may be some shaky times, but ultimately the truth makes the marriage stronger. But hiding the truth ultimately always destroys romantic love, intimacy, and marriages. All right. So current honesty, that's about your daily schedule. Reveal what you're doing every day. Every day. Your spouse should be able to call you at any time. They should have password emails, phone.
I should check up on her anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, so reveal every part about your day. Share your calendar if you can with your spouse. Make a special emphasis on those, with special emphasis on those things that affect them.
Right. And he mentions like one day a week. He picks 3:30 on Sunday to go through your upcoming week. What's your schedule through this week? What do you got planned? What's your activity like? What are you trying to accomplish this week? Share that with each other.
So future honesty. Talk to your spouse about what your future plans are. Dream together. And if you want to do something, and as some people don't talk to their spouse about what they want to do in the future because they feel like their spouse will just squash it. And they have a goal on something, they don't want anybody to stand in their way, but that's short-sighted. If you keep your plans secret, you may be avoiding trouble right now, but eventually it's going to come out and you're going to then have trouble later. And then like Tim said about the 3:30, encouraging honesty. So now let's talk to the ladies. Ladies, when your husband does talk to you and he tells you something that's difficult about his past or something during the day or something he's done, how do you respond? Do you make it an environment that he can talk to you in? Do your values encourage or discourage him to be open and honest with you? Do your reactions to him encourage or discourage your husband from revealing truth to you, even when it's an unpleasant truth? So here's some questions for you to think about. If the truth is terribly upsetting to you, do you want your spouse to be honest and open only at a time that you are emotionally prepared? Is number one. Number two, do you keep some aspects of your life secret, and do you encourage your spouse to respect your privacy in those areas? Number three, do you like to create a certain mystery between you and your spouse? Number four, are there subjects or situations about which you want to avoid radical honesty? 5, do you ever make selfish demands of your spouse when your spouse is open and honest with you? 6, do you ever make disrespectful judgments when your spouse is open and honest? That's like name calling, making things personal, and that's never acceptable, never. Number 7, do you ever have angry outbursts when your spouse is open and honest with you? Number 8, do you dwell on mistakes? Do you dwell on your spouse's mistakes when they're honest and open to you? If you answer yes to any of the first 4 questions, then you tend to compromise on the values of honesty and openness. And if you answered yes to any of the 5, 6, 7, or 8, then you are punishing honesty and openness. And the way to help your spouse learn to be transparent is to minimize the negative consequences when he reveals truth to you. All right? If every time he reveals something to you, he was faced with a fight, you're teaching him not to talk to you, that he can't trust you to talk. But if you don't respond negatively and you don't make any demands or judgments on something that he's done in the past, and you don't dwell on his mistakes, then you're making it easier for him to be open with you. And like I said, fully known, fully transparent, fully known, fully loved is the best way to have a successful marriage.
Amen. Because we're all sinners.
Absolutely.
All of us are sinners. That's why we need a Savior, because we can't make it out of this world alone. Someone came and died on the cross for you, for me, for her. That was Jesus. And Jesus says, come to me, all ye are weak and give me. I'll take your sin. So you can have freedom, okay? You can have freedom. Jesus left the 99 to go after that one person who was lost, that needed Jesus. I went from death unto life. I was blind, but now I see. I encourage everyone to find someone who went behind the Iron Curtain in incognito to see what it's really like in a communist country. Don't fall for this socialism. Everybody gets the same paradise. Don't fall for that. That's all propaganda.
So
that's what they want. They'll take away your freedom. They'll take away your house. You'll all work for the state.
Okay. So just in conclusion on our subject tonight.
Living a fair proof marriage God's way. We got to meet each other's needs. If we don't, the devil's going to get in there and try to destroy that marriage. We know all about it. We've been there, done that.
So
we're trying to keep anybody else from doing that.
So just in conclusion, I just wanted to point out the thing that he closes the chapter with: while openness and honesty are essential in building trust, our behavior must also be trustworthy. So everything you do must protect the feelings and interests of your spouse if you're to be trusted. And so everything you do, you need to think about how it's going to affect your spouse.
Amen.
And are their interests in mind, and how you're building a strong foundation for trust. And just remember, a woman needs to trust her husband. She does. And whatever advantage.
The last thing I want to do is to let her down on that. The last thing I want to do.
Whatever advantage a man may gain in being secretive, closed, or even dishonest, he gains at the expense of his wife's security and marital fulfillment.
Because I'm going to fill up her love bank.
And so when you get married, what is it when in the wedding vows it says, and they say, well, and or the fact that they say in wedding ceremonies, the two shall become one, but that only happens really when you're fully transparent with each other and the blending of your minds take place, so that you can almost read each other's minds. We finish each other's sentences all the time, or we're always thinking the same thing. Yeah.
And two becomes three because of Jesus. He's got to be in the middle of your marriage. If he's not, then you do it the world's way. You can't do it the world's way. You don't have a prayer the world's way. Your prayer comes with Jesus. Just one more thing, guys. Proverbs. I read Proverbs quite a bit. When I read Proverbs, I see why America was founded on Christian principles. Because I read Proverbs, I've seen the Constitution of the United States. Just like my dad taught me, you want to eat, gonna have to work. That's how you enjoy it. We love you guys. More importantly, Jesus loves you. Cracked Clay is all about building a fair-proof marriage. God's way. Not the world's way. God's way.
So next week we'll talk about his number 3 need. All right?
It's coming up.
Oh, next week is Independence Day next Saturday.
That's why we're talking about America so much.
I'm very excited about 4th of July, Independence Day, coming up, celebrating our
America's
nation's
freedom.
independence and freedom.
The freedom that we have.
Yes. So
that's from
have
Jesus.
a great week, everyone. Enjoy the reopening of Virginia if you're here to phase 3. And let us know if you have any prayer requests. All right?
We love you.